Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Hobby Lifestyle. In this week's edition, we are going to make beer from extract from the very first time. So please join us on this new adventure as we start to make beer. Some of the equipment we're using today as we're making our beer is the PVW cleaning solution. You use this to clean out the kettle and the bucket or your fermenting device. Very important to get everything nice and clean when you're making beer. Next to that, you can see we have a drill with a long stir stick on it. Not necessary, but nice to have. Brewer's Edge mash and boil. Obviously that is to boil the wort when we get all the stuff put together. There again, not necessary to have something like this, but it is very nice to have when you need it. Next to that, we have the fermenting bucket that we're going to use. Then we have the lid that we put on the bucket. We have the hydrometer, thermometer, and air cap or air plug, whatever you want to call it. You put water in there to keep the air from going back in. Star San sanitizing agent. Very hard to say. And then we have our box of brew, and as you can see in this case it came from Northern Brewer. It is the Kolsch extract kit. So let's have a look and see what's inside of that. Here's what comes inside the box. Here's what comes inside the box. As you can see in the background here, we have some instructions, which I'm guessing will be important later on. Some corn sugar. You use that for actually creating carbonation in the bottles after you bottle the beer. You have the Pilsner extract, the dry malt extract to be exact. You have a bag of hops, another bag of hops, but you add those at different times throughout the boil as you're making the wort. Here you have the ale yeast. Last but not least, you have the liquid extract to make the wort with, which is about 6 pounds, I believe is what that comes to. And that's everything that's inside the box. That should be everything you need to make this beer. So hopefully it'll turn out well. When making beer, sanitation is very important, so we have a special cleaning product that I bought at my local brew store to clean the kettle with before we actually start to make the wort. Follow along. It says that you need 1 or 2 ounces per gallon, which is about an ounce is about 2 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll start with about 2 gallons of water. Use the garden hose to fill it up to about 2 gallon mark. That's just about 2 gallons right there. There's graduation on the inside of the Brewer's Edge mash and boil, so I can tell how much water I do have. Now what we're going to do is we're going to plug this in, heat that up a little bit, because coming out of the spigot it's pretty cold. Put this in, turn it on, set it, turn it on, set it, we'll set it at 162 is fine. Right now, started heating up. But everyone needs a little doggy to come play with them, yes. Yes, everybody needs a little doggy to be right in the way. To make sure that gets good and stirred in, we have a nice stir stick on the end of our drill here. We will just make sure that all that gets dissolved. And there we go. We'll let that set and warm up a little bit. After the water comes up to temperature, we cleaned it out real well, and now we are draining out all the cleaning solution. Now that the cleaning phase is done, I went and added the disinfectant Star San. There again, you fill up that little cap on the one side there. That's 1 ounce for 5 gallons. Put that into the brew here, and as you can see, it is nice and foamy. Don't fear the foam. Once you use the sanitation product, you don't rinse it out. You just continue to use it. The foam is fine. It will not hurt the product. Nice thing about using a Brew Edge mash and boil is obviously the controls in the spigot. You can see down here on the bottom, you have an on button. You have a 1600 watt burner button. Over here you have the electronic control. And there you have a spigot, which allows you to drain the product out, which is a nice feature. The instructions say to add 2.5 gallons of water to the boiler after it's been sanitized, which I just drained all the sanitizer out of it. So we will start with 2.5 gallons of water. Making sure to keep everything clean, that's the important part. It is full of foam. Don't fear the foam with the sand, with the star sand. It says don't fear the foam. And that's a good thing because we got a lot of foam in there. So there's 1 gallon. Two and a half gallons would be your choice. You notice I'm not holding the container over the boiler because you don't want anything to fall off the bottom of the jug or something into the water. There's 2.5. And although this looks like bottled water, it's really not. It's water out of my faucet that I take and I get it out of the faucet and I leave the cap off of it for 3 or 4 days so the chlorine and the chemicals can float out, and then I use that to make the beer. So I'll put the lid on it, which has been covered with sanitizer, so it's nice and clean. The unit is plugged in, so we'll turn it on. Set it here. Supposed to bring it to a boil, so we'll set it to 200. Let's say 214, 212 is usually boil. And when 215, we'll set it. Turned on. Now I'm going to turn the 1600 watt burner on as well. There's nothing in there that can burn, so we should be able to run that burner as well. Okay, I'll come back on when it's time to add the first the malt extract here, the Pilsner malt extract. Looking forward to that. Okay, so we're at boiling. So what we're going to do now is turn off the burner because it says to do so. And we have to open this and pour this in. This is our Pilsner Light dried malt extract. Pour it in. I'll get the stir stick. Spraying the disinfectant here on the. He's pouring in the Pilsner, I'm pouring on the disinfectant onto our stir stick. Make sure that gets good and disinfected. I'm going to stir it a little bit. Okay. Go ahead and quit. Now that we have that dissolved, put it back on, turn it back on, bring it back up to boil. Set. Okay, we are at the half an hour mark in our boil, so it's now time to add the next hops drop, which is the Herzbrecher, German Herzbrecher. Put that in. Pellets again, looks like on your feet. Ooh, yeah, we have a boil line. I think I got it all. Did I? Alright. Another 15 minutes, we can add the liquid malt extract. Cool. Here we are, 45 minutes into the boil. We are ready to make our last addition, which is the liquid malt extract. There we go. Alright, stir. I've got this. Yeah. Probably going to the bottom. I don't want it to burn. There you go. Safety first. It's getting hot now. You will notice I keep pulling warm water out of the spigot to rinse out the jug. I also soaked the jug in hot water for about 45 minutes before we started to make sure that it was good and free flowing. Very good. Now we boil it for another 15 minutes. Okay. So we reached the end of our time. We'll turn it off. It doesn't smell bad. Nothing left to do now but let it cool down to about 70 degrees, add the package of yeast, put the lid on the bucket, add the bubbler to the bucket, wait about 2 weeks, and then you put it into another fermentation container just to ferment the second time. And after about 2 weeks on that fermentation, you're ready to drink. So enjoy.